You know you are meant for more, a higher ceiling and a floor that is strong enough to hold it. That's your belief system talking, and this is the subconscious work, the 95% that makes growth feel inevitable. It works in any business, any facet of life. We built you a free 3-minute quiz to show you where the gaps are and what is possible for you. It's fast, it's honest, it's fun, and it might surprise you. If you already know that Outspoken is for you, join us. The next cohort kicks off in August. Both links are in the show notes. Welcome to the Own Your Choices, Own Your Life podcast. You've landed in the right place to learn how to own your story, release subconscious beliefs, rewire your mind, and step into the impact you know you're here to create. Through Outspoken Publishing and NLP certifications, we share the tools and subconscious shifts that expand your voice, your message, your confidence, and your leadership. I am your host, Marsha Van Weinsberg, NLP trainer, speaker, author, and publisher. I am thrilled you are here. Let's get started. Welcome back to the show. Today we are speaking with Chris Burres. Chris is the published author of Live Longer and Better, host of the Live Beyond the Norms podcast, and a patent holder with a surprising twist. He is not just a visionary scientist, but also a master of comedy improv. Chris is the founder and chief scientist at MyVitalC, where he manufactures a Nobel Prize-winning molecule responsible for the single longest longevity experimental result in history, a full 90% extension of life. He is the intersection where science meets laughter, and his life's mission is to help people live longer, healthier, happier, pain-free lives with science. This is an incredible episode where Chris explains so much about ESS60, which I had never heard of, to be completely honest. And he sent me a number of samples to try. There is a promo code in the show notes, and listen for yourself to understand a little bit more about what would it feel like to live a longer, healthier, happier, pain-free life. Welcome to the show today, Chris.
Marsha, thank you so much for having me.
So we've already decided we're going to do this little volley back and forth because you've got such a great story and product and business and everything that you do. Can you just start with telling everybody what it is that you do, who you are in the world? We're going to kind of go into your story.
Yeah. So I think the summary, and this is the phrase that I use on social media, is I'm now a longevity expert. My goal is to help you live happier, healthier, and pain-free with science. It's been a long journey to get here. If you had said, hey, Chris, this is what you're going to be 8 years ago, I would have said, no, that's not going to happen. There's no path for me from where I was to where I am today. So yeah, it's kind of interesting how life and business and back to life guide you or provide a path for you.
Okay, amazing. So 8 years ago, what were you doing?
My focus at the time was a digital marketing agency. So I've been manufacturing the molecule we're going to be talking about today since 1991. And at some point, it was, for most of the existence of the company, it was a material that was sold to research institutions around the world so they could use it in experiments. And that's a kind of limited market. I had bigger visions, bigger goals, financial goals from the perspective of being an entrepreneur. I didn't think that that was going to happen from a company that served just research institutions around the world. And so I started a digital marketing agency, and we were talking about it before we got started. I started a podcast with that digital marketing agency. And then some crazy study came out. I'm sure we'll talk about it. And that shifted my entire focus back to the molecule, but in a very different context. So all along, I've been the chief scientist of a carbon nanomaterial manufacturing business. And in 2000, and really the right number is probably to say is 2018, I became the chief scientist of a health and wellness supplement company, which is a little bit of a change.
A little bit of a change. So take me back to 1991. And what was on your radar in 1991 that kind of almost gave you the message of like, pay attention to this?
Yeah. So I guess it even goes further back than that. It actually, my kind of why I ended up here is, a lot of people in the health space, they have these beautiful pain to passion stories, right? And I'm kind of glad I don't have that because I'm glad I don't have the pain, right? Like now I just have the passion. But I'm a little envious because like what really drove them and what's driving them. And I'll tell you the reason I'm an entrepreneur is because at the age of 14, I had a poster of a Lamborghini Countach on my wall, and it was candy apple red, and the doors were open, and I could smell the leather, and I was gonna have one of these. Like, however, and I actually found an article, and the article said, if you want one, you become a neurosurgeon. If you want more than one, you become an entrepreneur. I'm not even sure I knew what an entrepreneur was, but I'm a 14-year-old kid with a Lamborghini poster on the wall. Do I want one or do I want more than one? I want more than one. So I knew at 14 I was going to be an entrepreneur. And then when it came time to go to college, in my family, it was understood you were going to college, but there was zero preparation. All right. My wife and I have 16-year-old boy-girl twins, and I understand we're going to start doing college stuff next year, which is junior year. I graduated from high school and didn't know, like I hadn't applied anywhere, didn't like, I had taken the SAT. I felt like it was a requirement of the school. Um, and so I didn't know what I was going to do. My dad was in the Air Force, so I moved every 2 years, and he got his second civilian job in Houston at the time that I graduated from high school. So came down, applied to the University of Houston. And, it's a great question. What do you study if you know you're going to be an entrepreneur? And today you might go, well, there's all sorts of entrepreneurship programs. But at the time that I went to college, I did some research for my book, and there was only one entrepreneurship class in the entire country at the time. So that wasn't even an option. And I'll tell you, I don't even know that I would go down that path even today, because my thought process was, I'm good in math, I'm good in science. What's the fastest way to the highest salary so I will have an income and money so I can invest in a business and become an entrepreneur? Whatever that looks like. And so I studied mechanical engineering, and a couple things went wrong with that plan. The first is it took me longer than 4 years. Engineering is a tough course of study. I graduated after 6 years. I did also have a minor in computer science and math. The other thing that went wrong is I started the company before I even graduated. And the way that happened, so my good friend at the time, Robert Wong, was working on the University of Houston campus in an organization called the Texas Center for Superconductivity. And they were working with this recently discovered molecule. We'll talk about that. He was separating it. And one day, his supervisor, Dr. Paul Chu, who is very famous, you've never heard of him, but very famous in the superconductivity world. In fact, that building on the University of Houston campus, we called Chu's Castle because it existed because of his fame. So Dr. Paul Chu comes in one day, says to Robert and Diego, hey, you guys are young kids. This molecule is selling for $6,000 a gram. You should go figure out how to make it and start a business. And Robert is from an entrepreneurial background. I joke that he did a back of the napkin calculation, which had one line, $6,000 a gram, and then he's off and running building it. Now, this molecule, although it's naturally occurring, and by the way, everyone in your audience has been exposed to it. If you collect the soot from a candle flame, right, like maybe put a cold steel plate over a candle flame, you'll get this deep, dark soot. That deep, dark soot has parts per million or parts per billion of this ESS60 molecule. So naturally occurring, but if you want quantities to do research with, you actually have to manufacture it in a reactor. In the reactor, you vaporize graphite rods. It turns out graphite rods are some of the hardest materials on the planet to vaporize. It takes local temperatures of the sun. You have to do it in a chamber that has no oxygen. So you have to vacuum out all the oxygen, replace it with helium, and it has to be at a slight vacuum. Like there's a lot of challenges going on here. I'm studying mechanical engineering. They brought me on to help with the drawings, to help with the design, and then actually ultimately to help with the manufacture. So we created what is still to this day, right, 34 years later, the best way to manufacture this molecule the most efficient way to manufacture this molecule. And we started that in 1991. I'm going to throw a lot of business people out there. Our entire business plan was based on the sales we would have to the university, like literally nothing else. And to this day, we have never sold to the University of Houston. I think there's value in having a business plan, right? Like putting the thoughts together. You can think through what's going to happen next. And I have to imagine, I don't know, less than 5% of business plans go as planned. You got to continue to tweak them. But I do think that it's a very valuable exercise. Just know, like, the real value is your ability to pivot.
Well, and I think you just nailed that, the ability to pivot. I did a business plan in 2000. We opened up a brick and mortar business. I would never do that again personally, but I did. I did it then. And it was an experience. And even doing the business plan, like on paper, we were super conservative. And I can't even count how many times we had to pivot. Like we just had to pivot and pivot and pivot. And it gives you a chance to at least see the business and what your costs will be and what it looks like. So take us through some of your pivots and what was that journey like?
Yeah, well, I mean, the biggest pivot is going to be into the health and wellness space, right? So, by the way, this molecule discovered in 1985, the three scientists who discovered it here in Houston at Rice University, Houston is where we're based, went on to win the Nobel Prize for the discovery of this molecule. They won the Nobel Prize in 1996. We started manufacturing it in 1991, a full 5 years before they were awarded the Nobel Prize. So we are the oldest and longest manufacturer and distributor of this molecule on the planet. We were selling it to research institutions around the world. And the molecule's amazing. It performs as well or better than the current best material in almost every application. So it makes better inks, better batteries, better tires, better photocells. This is where people get nervous about a health supplement.
Yeah, my brain went there.
Is he talking about the same stuff, or is this some other pivot? That would be a big pivot. I'm pretty certain nobody in your audience woke up this morning, looked at their car, and thought, I wonder what part of my car battery I should be taking on a daily basis for my health. And the story actually gets a little worse. By the way, I'm holding up a model of the molecule. If you're listening, just imagine a soccer ball where the lines on the soccer ball represent the bonds between the carbon atoms. So you have a spherical molecule of 60 carbon atoms. That is the molecule that they discovered. That's the molecule that they won the Nobel Prize. There are actually other kind of more oblong shaped, so other versions of this. So that would be 70 molecules, 76 molecules, but this is the most abundant. And the molecule's amazing, as I mentioned, in all this industrial applications. But one of the shapes on the exterior of this molecule is the same shape, not the same formula, but the same shape as benzene. Now, benzene is known to be toxic and known to be carcinogenic when it's on. We don't have modern society without benzene, right? So just kind of look around you. Anything that's plastic, gone without the benzene ring. But again, when it's on its own, it's known to be toxic and known to be carcinogenic. That shape, again, not formula, but shape appears 20 times on the exterior of this ESS60 molecule. So they thought the molecule would be toxic. They put it in a toxicity study. And instead of being toxic, the test subjects that they gave it to, in this case, Wistar rats, lived 90% longer than the control group. 90. The single longest longevity experimental result on mammals in history, peer-reviewed published research, is because of this ESS60 molecule that I've been manufacturing since 1991, dissolved in olive oil. And that is the study that really changed my trajectory. There's some interesting stories. Some of this story is Chris wishes he was smarter and jumped on stuff sooner. That is a recurring theme. Maybe if I had pivoted to being smarter, is that it?
Can you do that?
I'm going to recommend all of your audience members, they should pivot today to be smarter. That would be the best pivot.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So much. And I knew there's a lot of content here. Tell us about the ESS60 molecule, because I know as you just shared it, you described what that was. Now you said also dissolved in olive oil. So can you just explain that for the average person that's listening?
Yeah. So this study was out of the University of Paris. And people often ask, why did they use olive oil? And I'm like, well, it's Paris. They had olive oil on the shelf, and they're
It's
like,
right there.
we know it dissolves in olive oil, so we're going to use that one. And remember, it was a toxicity study. They actually thought this was going to be toxic. And so they were shocked. And I love to give credit to them because if anything was ever true about a toxicity study, when all of your control rats, those are the rats given water, are dead, and all of your quote unquote toxic rats are still alive, that's not toxic. Like
No.
there's zero doubts at this point. But they continued to do the animal husbandry for another 2.5 years in order for this study to be completed and ultimately the single longest longevity experimental result on mammals in history. And it's interesting because that study, published in 2012, started this whole cascade of events, which is kind of bizarre. Starting in about mid-2013, we started getting phone calls from this crazy, wacky group of people called biohackers. And I can say that now affectionately because I am now a biohacker. And they were like, hey, that stuff with the rats, how much should I be taking? And Robert and I are conservative carbon nanomaterial scientists. The question we actually heard was, that stuff that you sell to research institutions around the world to put into inks, batteries, tires, and photocells, how much of that stuff should I be consuming? And we thought the proper answer was zero. We actually added not for human consumption to our labeling in mid-2013. So you think from 1991 all the way to 2013, we don't have to have not for human consumption on the labeling. We add it then. And I want to be like crystal clear. In the literature, it was understood this molecule was safe. We're just conservative carbon nanomaterial scientists. And so we're like, don't take any, right? That led to 2 to 3 phone calls per week. Again, these crazy, wacky group of people called biohackers. And those calls went something like this. Joe would call and he'd be like, hey, Chris, my knee pain is gone. I'd be like, hey, Joe, you mean the knee pain of your rat? Because it literally says not for human consumption on the labeling. And then Joe would say, yeah. Hey, if my rat weighs 275 pounds and does HIIT training on Wednesdays and Fridays, should my rat take more on Wednesdays and Fridays? So we knew what was going on. And again, because it was so clear in the literature that it was safe, we let it go, but we're still just conservative carbon nanomaterial scientists. And so every quarter we got together. Do we want to get into the supplement market? This might be the part where the pivot to being smarter would have been valuable back in 2013. But conservatively, quarter after quarter, we're saying no. Our thought process was the supplement industry is, I think, generously a challenged industry, right? Lots of challenges. And so we didn't want to get into it. We were happy delivering commercial quantities to carbon researchers around the world. And in this time frame, we finally changed our mind in 2017. I'll talk about that. But between 2013 and 2017, I found a research paper that said that 50% of the supplements that this research group had purchased on the market didn't have in them what they said they had in them, right? This is a challenged industry. Finally, at the latter part of 2017, a guy with a big YouTube following, that's how everything changes these days, right? Started sharing all the benefits he was getting taking it on a daily basis. And our phone went from those 2 to 3 phone calls per week to 10 phone calls a day, right? So in that quarterly meeting, Robert and I, well, I guess this is a bigger opportunity than we realized. Wish we were smarter. And then we also looked back to that peer-reviewed published research paper that 50% of the supplements on the market didn't have in them what they said they had in them. We realized that would happen with this molecule. And we are the oldest and longest manufacturer and distributor of the molecule. We've got the lab. We've been delivering to the most stringent market period. Like when you deliver materials to a researcher, they give it to their grad student or their research associate who has an HPLC and the process for testing it. They make sure that you ship them what you sold them, which is definitely not how the supplement industry works.
No.
And then we asked ourselves 2 questions. The first question is a moral question. Are we comfortable selling it? And so I take it, my wife takes it, everybody on our team here takes it. By the way, not a requirement. Like you don't have to clock in and somebody make sure you take your dose of MyVitalC. Really, the team here, like everyone, has access to the research. And probably more importantly, they actually have access to all the testimonials that are coming in, right? So they can chat about recent testimonials and everything that's spectacular that's going on with the molecule with our customers. So yes, we're comfortable selling it. And the next is the legal side. You've got the FDA and the FTC. You got to cross the T's, you got to dot the I's. And so we're, of course, doing that. And that's when it was really the beginning of 2018. that we started bringing this to market in earnest. And I think I'll just throw in our most consistent testimonial is people take the product in the morning, they report mental focus and energy during the day, and then better sleep that night. By the way, that's pretty profound. And it's profound for two reasons. The first is if we just help people sleep, good sleep will improve your mental, physical, and emotional well-being. And then the next is you take it in the morning and positively impact sleep at night. Now, I'm not aware of anything you can take.
No.
Actually, I've only had one person suggest a peptide that I haven't heard of, and nor have I played with it. Other than that, I haven't heard of anything that you can take in the morning and positively impact sleep. You can get exercise in the morning. That'll positively impact your sleep. You can get some sunlight in the morning, right? And get your circadian rhythm in line with the rising and falling of the sun. That'll help you sleep. But to take something in the morning and help you sleep. And by the way, we think that feature of the product is just kind of confirmation of our ultimate theory of what it's actually doing in the body.
Okay, that was going to be my next question. So I love what you just shared in this piece, because when we look and if you listen to the supplements and things that are available on the market, typically if something's going to help you in the morning, it's not going to have the same effect at night to help you to sleep. And that is how that tends to flow. So what is it doing inside the body?
So I'll walk you through my journey, right? Because so now I wake up in 2018 wishing I was smarter and that we had started this sooner, and so now we're off and running. And is one of my roles as the chief scientist of this health and wellness supplement company is what's going on. And the first place I did land was on sleep, right? Because again, sleep is good for your mental, physical, and emotional well-being. That makes sense. Next, I look, okay, these rats live 90% longer. Why might that be the case? And I looked at the medical community and what do they think about aging? And they tend to think of aging as an oxidation. They don't all agree, but they tend to think of it as an oxidation and an inflammation process. In terms of oxidation, there's an ad hoc study on the web showing us to be 172 times more powerful than vitamin C. There's peer-reviewed published research showing us to be 125 times more powerful than vitamin C. So we're in Texas. We put a big old check mark next to antioxidant. When it comes to inflammation, the FDA considers conversations of inflammation to be the same as a conversation about the diseases of inflammation, which are also the diseases of aging. So arthritis, Alzheimer's, cardiovascular disease, cancer. So if I come on your show and I say we address inflammation, what the FDA hears me claiming is we cure cancer, we cure cardiovascular disease. Of course, we are not claiming that. There is so much research that needs to go into being able to make those claims. And it's part of what's driving us, some of our clinical research that we're doing that I'm sure we'll talk about at some point. So antioxidant and inflammation. The FDA does allow us to say that we address inflammation at least as the inflammation is related to exercise-induced inflammation. So we have kind of an answer there. And then that's a good answer. I like to dig deeper and kind of work on what's going on, where is it going? And we've landed on the BOSS theory. So the BOSS theory stands for Buffering Oxidative Stress System. I'm going to get a little geeky here, and then I have a fun analogy for you, right? So how the BOSS theory, the things that give credibility to the BOSS theory is first, we know from peer-reviewed published research that this ESS60 molecule gets into the mitochondria. We also know from way back in the 90s that this ESS60 molecule can hold up to 6 negatively charged particles on the exterior of this cage. So here's how we think it's working. Quick refresher. The mitochondria is the powerhouse of every cell. There's between 50 and 5,000 mitochondria in every cell in your body, except for blood cells, which have 0, and brain and neurons, which have 2 million. It is crazy how much energy our nervous system uses relative to our other systems. Mitochondria is the powerhouse of every cell. Like every powerhouse, there is a negative byproduct. You think about your car going down the road, there's exhaust. You think about a power plant, it's got a smokestack, there's smoke. In the case of mitochondria, it's reactive oxygen species. The way I picture these is if they're left to their own devices, they're like little bumper cars, right? And they run around in your body. And if they're left to their own devices, everything they smack into, they cause rust, right? They cause oxidative stress, oxidative damage, ultimately inflammation. That sounds horrible, and it is. But like so many biological systems in our body, there's a way to manage those. And that is the internal antioxidants, glutathione and melatonin. It's worth pausing here because melatonin is the sleep hormone. These things are operating in the same place, so there's nice parallels. So in a healthy mitochondria, it's producing reactive oxygen species. They're bonding with the glutathione and melatonin, and no damage is occurring. But what happens when you stress a mitochondria? So that begs the question, how do you stress a mitochondria? I point out, if you're alive in modern society, you have stressed mitochondria, right? It's smoking, drinking, it's EMF radiation off of your device, it's whatever, EMF radiation from an airplane flight, stressful emails, stressful conversations. It's working out, which, by the way, you should be doing. It's good for your long-term health, but it does stress your mitochondria. And when your mitochondria is stressed, it starts producing more reactive oxygen species than can be managed by the internal glutathione and melatonin. And that's when, if they're left to their own devices, again, they run around and cause that rust, that oxidative stress, oxidative damage. And that's where the ESS60 molecule comes in. Again, peer-reviewed published research, it's in the mitochondria. It holds on to 6 negatively charged particles. So we believe it's holding on to up to 6 of these negatively charged reactive oxygen species, so they can't run around like little bumper cars and do damage. And then when that mitochondria can replenish the glutathione, replenish the melatonin, then it can manage those reactive oxygen species properly without experiencing the damage. So the kind of summary is, we believe we're reducing the negative impact of stressed mitochondria. And if you reduce the negative impact of stressed mitochondria, given that there's 50 to 5,000 in every cell, except for 2 million in your brain cells, then you should have systemic benefits, and you should have what we have, which are head-to-toe testimonials. Now, that's enough geekiness. Let's get into a fun analogy. So I believe, I don't know if you agree, that all biological analogies should start with Mardi Gras. I mean, a lot of biology happens at Mardi Gras, so why not? So it's the end of Mardi Gras, and you have these drunk reactive oxygen species on Bourbon Street running around, spray painting walls, smashing windows, whatever they're doing. And the New Orleans Police Department, the glutathione and the melatonin, come onto Bourbon Street, handcuff themselves to those reactive oxygen species, and get them off of Bourbon Street. But what does the New Orleans Police Department do when they get overwhelmed? They take those reactive oxygen species and they put them in a paddy wagon. They attach them to the exterior of the ESS60 molecule so they can't run around and do damage. And then when the New Orleans Police Department can replenish the glutathione, replenish the melatonin, then they can handcuff themselves to those reactive oxygen species and get them off of Bourbon Street. And that's why we say that the ESS60 molecule is the boss buffering oxidative stress system.
Wow. Okay, I love, but you're also a great storyteller, and you were able to explain this in a way that people can understand. And I do understand what you're saying. I don't think I could repeat it back, but I do understand what you're saying. Now, it's interesting because I know we've joked about like the pivot back of not seeing the biohacking industry be what it was going to be. I don't know if any of us could have ever seen the way it is now in any way, shape, or form. Yet at the end of the day, I can't remember. I heard somebody say it, and of course it's going to slip my mind now. It's not biohacking. It's like bioenhancing. How can I enhance how I want to live? And it's interesting because this is a generalization, but I would hear when I was younger, well, like, you're 40 and that's just the way it is. Whereas we're in this stage now, I'm in my mid 50s and I'm like, no, I want to feel as good as I can for as long as I can. It's a different way of thinking, right? So I'm assuming that's part of what you're also seeing and experiencing.
Yeah, well, absolutely. I mean, I can give you an example, right? I train pretty hard right now. And at one point, my mom was like, why are you training so hard? It was like, well, I played soccer at a competitive level, but I never actually had a six pack. And I'm 57. There's no reason that I shouldn't have a six pack. Like, they're like zero. And the mindset, you're just pointing out that difference in mindset, because her mindset was, even at my age, like, you shouldn't be trying so hard. Like, that seems like a lot of work. By the way, I love the work. You got to figure out how to love the work. That's true of so many things that will lead you to success. But yeah, I have the goal, and I think it's very important. You know, if nobody in your audience ever goes to any sort of biohacking or health conference, I think it's really good if they happen to be on a health journey, which you should be. Well, you are, whether you choose to or not. You're on a health journey, right? And sometimes that's downhill, and sometimes that's up the hill. Downhill if you're not choosing it, right? It can be very valuable to be around other people who are also choosing the fun journal. Yeah, downhill's easier, but like reaching the pinnacle, right? Like, so it may be harder. It is to reach the pinnacle. Anybody who's on that uphill journey, just like being around other business owners, incredibly valuable. Like, get around other business owners, just like in a health space, get around other people who are on a positive health journey.
I couldn't agree more. And that might mean that your circles have to change and they don't see things the same way that you do. We were exposed to Alzheimer's in our immediate family probably 15, 18 years ago. And at a point in time when very few people were talking about it. And now I can look back and go, oh, I was like, I saw this for 10 years. Like, it was just there. And so I know because of that, we also look at things a little bit differently. We see things a little bit differently. And I know none of it is perfect, but there's also so many good preventative things that you can do in the meantime. So you mentioned, and you said it very quickly, I would love to come back to it, the piece about the nervous system and the brain cells. So where you just, again, do you know what I'm talking about? Okay,
yeah.
good.
Yeah, no, again, mitochondria, there's between 50 and 5,000 mitochondria in every cell in your body. There's 2 million in your brain cells, right? It is an energy suck. If our brains didn't add so much value, we wouldn't have them kind of evolutionarily, because why would you have so much energy? But that's how valuable they are. There's so many fascinating things about that. One of the things you think about sleep is the worst possible game plan for survival, right? Like, let's lay down basically dead, right? For 8 hours, 7.5 to 9 hours of sleep opportunity is what Dr. Matthew Walker says in his book, Why We Sleep. Fantastic book. He's also an amazing speaker. I aspire to speak as well as him someday. And so it's just horrible, but still we haven't evolved out of it. In fact, there is no waking creature that doesn't sleep. In fact, you think about a dolphin, right? A dolphin breathes air, it's a mammal, and then is underwater. How does a dolphin sleep? They actually have what's called biphasic sleep, where half of their brain sleeps at a time. The other half keeps taking them up for oxygen. So sleep is so very important that we didn't evolve out of it. They evolved ways to continue to do it. So you've got to be getting good night's sleep. That's probably one of your focuses, like as you bring on clients, like, oh, how is your sleep? And let's fix it, right? Like that's so important. And so it's not surprising, given that there are 2 million mitochondria in every brain cell, that our most consistent testimonial is entirely brain related, right? Take it in the morning, focus on energy during the day, and then better sleep that night. And I'll share, so our typical serving of our product is 1 teaspoon of a high quality extra virgin olive oil and as much of this ESS60 molecule as we can get to dissolve in it. 1 drop of that teaspoonful, so any 1 drop of that teaspoonful, has more than 400 times as many of the ESS60 molecules as you have cells in your body. 400 times as many of these little ESS60 molecules as you have cells in your body in 1 drop, which makes sense. If we're having a positive impact on the mitochondria, you've got to saturate the 50 to 5,000 in every cell in your body and the 2 million in your brain cells, right? So like we're working in the right ratios for actually delivering value. So was there more you wanted me to probe into on mitochondria in the brain?
No, I think you just landed on something that's really important, because right now, like, yes, we hear the words biohacking. I mean, I do a lot of work with subconscious mind and nervous system work. And it's like, now it's a buzzword. Everybody talks about it. And so you're talking about like biohacking from that lens. But there's this message that, nervous system work means that we always sit in this constant nervous system regulation. I'm like, no, bodies don't work like that. They do when we're not alive. Like, it's like, how can we learn how to regulate, and so that things don't take us out, like that our body can be in that space. So I just love how you emphasized and spoke about the brain from that lens.
And I think I can add something there, because a lot of people will ask, now kind of moving into the role of a longevity expert, hey, if I'm looking at longevity, if I'm looking at health and wellness, what should I focus on, right? And I would say maybe not our product, right? You need to make sure you get good sleep. Let's start there. You need to get good nutrition. You need to get good exercise, right? And so good sleep, good nutrition, good exercise. And all of these are really driven by mindset. I actually think mindset is the most important thing. You just touched on it, right? If you
Mhm.
need to do something with your business, it's about the mindset of having that tough conversation or making that tough decision or whatever it may be. And the way I put it in the context of health and wellness is if you know you need to move more or move tougher, right?
Mhm.
Because I have a phrase that I really like, which is movement is life. Keep moving. Tough movement is freedom, right? So do you want just life or do you want freedom? The freedom to go up the stairs, the freedom to carry bags of groceries, the freedoms to pick up your grandchildren. Like if you want freedom, you need to be doing tough movement. So if you know you need to be doing tough movement and you don't have the mindset to do it, it's not going to happen. If
Right.
you know for sleep, you need to put away your device and not do doom scrolling and you don't have the mindset to do it, it's not going to happen. You need to put down the Twinkie or whatever it is and you don't have the mindset. So mindset is pivotal. And then I'll add on top of that though, because we work at the level of the mind, that our product could be beneficial for helping that mindset changing in the three things as it relates to wellness that you really need to be focused on.
Thank you for saying that. So as you talk about how your business evolved and then went to market, and can you tell us about she's laughing. Can you tell us about what did that process look like? And now is it something that market that is like readily available to the consumer? What does it look like on your end?
Well, first off, yes, any consumer can buy it. 98% of our sales are direct to consumer on a website.
Yeah.
It is a challenging thing to market. We still do not have, every product aspires to have a 30, 60, 90-second commercial that can convince somebody that it's worth trying. I don't have that, right? Like
Mhm.
my best marketing strategies, thank you for having me on your podcast,
Yep.
is to share the science behind it, give some people, connection with me so they understand I didn't even want to be in this space. Like, in fact, let me segue here. I think that most people get into the supplement industry for one of two reasons. And we hinted at one earlier, but the first we'll say is that people wake up and they decide they want to be wealthy and they decide they're going to do it with supplements. I have no problem with people being wealthy. That's just not how I ended up here. The
Mhm.
next is that pain to passion story, right? So they have their own health challenge or the health challenge of a loved one and they solve it. And now they want to save the world. Hopefully it doesn't surprise you. I am not against people saving the world. It's just not how I ended up here. I ended up here because I've been manufacturing this molecule. And it was supposed to be toxic. They put it in the study and now the rats live longer, live a lot longer.
Thank goodness for
So
the rats, I guess, eh?
yes. Yeah. Well, I kind of joke when I share that story, I get two responses. The first one is if they're from New York, they're like, why would we want rats to live longer? Chris, you're evil. We should bury this research. And then, the less facetious one, which is interesting. Actually, early on, people would share, why would I want to live longer? Now, for
Mm.
me, it was kind of a bizarre question because probably about the same time I had the Lamborghini Countach poster on my wall, I was like, I'm going to live to 125. I don't know where the number came from. I don't know why. Maybe because I want to have more fun with my Lamborghini Countach, right? So let's make
Mhm.
it longer. And I'm going to be totally honest here. 125 wasn't going to look pretty, right? Like
Yeah.
it's a marine crawl, maybe a roll over that finish line. My vision is very different today. So because I had this mindset of living to 125, when people were saying like, why would I want to live longer? I didn't understand it. And I came to realize that we can't separate living longer from living in some state of infirmment, right? And so if the question is, hey, how long would you like to live in some state of infirmment that continues to get worse? The answer starts to get really quickly for most, if not all, not that long,
Yeah.
like approximately not that long. But if I change the question and I'm like, Marsha, if you had the same mental capacity that you have today and you have the same physical capacity that you have today, would you then be interested in living longer? And that almost changes everyone's. There's still some people who are like, no. And I just think they need to find purpose. Like that's my true belief. If you have purpose in serving others, then you're gonna want to stick around for a lot longer. Um, so that's kind of an interesting piece. So getting on a podcast, people can get a connection with me, understand I didn't really want to be in this space. Like this is just something I'm trying to be a good shepherd for. And then that can get people to try it. And then they have an experience on it. And so like that's easy. More than 50% of our ongoing sales are recurring reorders because people just have the product and they really enjoy it. So I'm constantly looking. In fact, that's part of the reason that we're doing the clinical trials. One, it's the right thing to do for the
Mhm.
products. And the next is because it can give us something market. Because if I just start off with, hey, take it in the morning, mental focus and energy during the day, and better sleep at night, like, yeah, that's not real. Like, hey, it's got oil in the name. I know what kind of oil that is. That's snake oil. Like that's the response. So yeah, we have a lot of work to do from a marketing perspective. But right now, really a lot of my focus is you get on podcasts, share the story, and then deliver an amazing product that actually has an impact.
I love that. And so how do I take it? I know you said it briefly. I just want
Yeah.
people to understand what it looks like if they're taking it.
Yeah, it's a high quality extra virgin olive oil and as much of this ESS60 molecule as we can get to dissolve in it. And it's 1 teaspoon per day. And so my routine, I'll just share this. We also have an MCT product. So we have an olive oil product, an avocado product, and an MCT. So it's each of those oils with as much of the molecule, the ESS60 molecule, as we can get to dissolve in it. So my routine is for coffee. I consume it all during coffee. I put a teaspoon and a half of the MCT oil in the coffee. Well, so it's kind of like a bulletproof coffee
Yep.
thing, but I don't like the taste of the ghee and I don't like the
Sure.
calories. So it's just the MCT. And while that's blending, I take a teaspoon and a half of the olive oil. I will share, people ask, hey, which oil should I start on? We always suggest the olive oil for two reasons. The first reason is we are a science based organization, and almost all of the research is on the ESS60 molecule in olive oil. The next is there's actually a higher concentration of the ESS60 molecule in olive oil. So you get about 0.8 milligrams per milliliter in olive oil, zero 0.6 in avocado oil, and then zero 0.3 in MCT oil. So we always start at the olive oil.
Okay. Thank you. That's
Oh,
I was laughing when you were saying it because I know when the bulletproof coffee came out, I think my husband tried it once. He's like, I'm just not putting butter in my coffee. He did not like it at all. I tried it once, but okay. So amazing. And how long before a person starts to notice improvements?
yeah, that's a great question. I'll share. There are some people. These are like we all know this
Hmm.
person is super in tune with their body, and they take it, and they're like, "Oh, this I will never not take it," or whatever they say. I notice how valuable it is. I am not that person. I wish I was. The data suggests. I mean, maybe. And you can ask to be smarter and more in tune with your body. That's the pivots. That's the lesson. The pivot lessons for today. Um, so we think of trying the product really as a 3-month experience. Where month one is very parallel to our most consistent testimonial is that focus and energy. I got some product to an influencer and she took the product in the morning, sent in her video that evening. And in that video, she pointed out that she didn't finish her cup of coffee. Now, if you're a coffee drinker, that's a big deal, right? The
Hmm.
fact that you pointed out means you always finished your cup of coffee before, probably had another one. And so she noticed that she didn't finish. I used to be a 2 to 3 cup of coffee per day person. I am now more like a half to 1. It's part of my routine. I don't want to mess up my routine because that's actually when I take my product. I like the smell. I like the taste. So definitely has had a positive impact on me there. Next is really that sleep piece. So deep sleep. The reality is I think deep sleep's happening right away. And we certainly have some testimonials to support that. I'll share those testimonials are something like over the last 2 months, I've had 2 calls where I ask, "Hey, what have you noticed?" To people I've connected with, and they feel kind of bad. "Oh, I haven't noticed anything." And for me, I'm like, well, "I didn't invent this to do anything. Like, I'm just trying to get it out there, and if people like it, they take it, right?"
Hmm.
And then I ask them, "How about your dreams?" Right, and their eyes get Bambi big, and they're like, "Oh my god, I'm remembering my dreams." One guy had an apocalyptic dream that he was okay in. I don't know. I don't know how that works. But they remember their dreams, and that's because of what we think it's doing. You end up with 6 to 7 sleep cycles,
Yep.
and part of those sleep cycles is actually clearing out your mitochondria. And if your mitochondria is already clear, then you can just move on to the next thing. And dreams are emotional consolidations. You also have knowledge consolidation. So I think that's a reference of that. So, but in general, we think of it as month 2 because everyone gets a little bit more or less sleep. And so
Hmm.
it can be really hard to start taking MyVitalC and then go like, oh, my sleep has improved because like, is it better today because you just got an extra hour? Right. So And I'll tell you, I have a business coach who said for 50 years he needed an alarm clock to wake up. Now, when he's on the product, he wakes up before the alarm clock. Business coach has late night mixers, late night dinners. None of that matters unless he doesn't get the product for about 10 days. And then he starts to need the alarm clock again. And that coincides with the data and the understanding that this molecule is clearing out of your system in about 10 days. And then finally, if you think about reducing the negative impact of stressed mitochondria, in month 3, we just get super powerful testimonials we can't share yet. But we are doing clinical trials so that we can start to share them. The first one that is already up and running and taking participants is a frequent and severe headache study. My own experience, my wife's experience, she actually went through early onset menopause, was suffering from severe and frequent headaches. We actually can't call them migraine, so we have to call them severe and frequent headaches. Interesting nuance there. So that study's up and running and taking participants. Next is HSCRP. So that stands for high sensitivity C-reactive protein. It's an inflammatory marker typically associated with cardiovascular diseases and cancers. We actually had one practitioner gave us an amazing testimonial for his client base and literally said, we believe this product is something that's so powerful, we should just leave it in the break room for our employees. Like, okay, that's a powerful testimonial. There's also peer-reviewed published research on beagles reducing HSCRP with this molecule. So we're doing an HSCRP study. Next is sleep. We already did an ad hoc, kind of low cohort crossover sleep study. So we collected 10 days of data prior to taking our product about sleep, 10 days on it, 10 days back off it, and then 10 days back on it. It was a small cohort, and the most important piece of that study was that 100% of the participants reported improvements in sleep. So we want a more formalized version of that. And so we're doing that. And then finally, we do have a cosmetic product. So I think I've done a reasonable job of expressing how I didn't really want to be in the supplement industry. And when our business partner came to us and said, we should do a cosmetic serum, we were like, yay, that sounds amazing. That's what I woke up hoping to do today.
I'm hoping you worked on your expression before you actually went that route.
I don't know. I was pretty honest with her. Like I wasn't, I mean, my tone was probably better, but the message came through that I wasn't really happy. In the middle of this, my director of research came to me and he said, I found a molecule, a peptide with 30 years of skin and hair improvement in peer-reviewed published research. You should look at this. I looked at it. It was like, we need to do something with this. So we call the peptide UTH29, which stands for Youth 29. It's a peptide which is water soluble. Our ESS60 molecule is oil soluble. We could have shoved these together with an emulsifier. I don't like how an emulsifier sounds. Also, there are only health detractions from emulsifiers, so we kept it separate. So what I use every day is 2 squirts of the UTH29 lotion, and it's a beautiful blue color because of the peptide, and then 2 drops per squirt of the ESS60 activator. So 4 drops of the ESS60 activator, activate it right there in your hand and apply it to things that might show aging, which seems to be more and more every day. And because of the testimonials we're getting from that, we're doing a wrinkle and age spot study as well. And those are the 4 clinical trials we're hoping to start before the end of the year.
So you're hoping those will start before the end of the year. How long I know that's general, but how long does the clinical trial go on for?
So we'll actually probably do it ongoing. It's something that we can incorporate into the process of people getting their hands on the product. And hey, do you want to have real world results? Just participate in the study, and then we'll compensate you. All right. So basically, you get free product for the study at the end of the study. But we will be publishing ongoing, right? So as we get some results in, we'll be publishing it. So I'm hoping that in the next 6 months, we'll have some people who have gone through this more formalized, again, frequent and severe headaches. And I honestly have very little doubts that it's going to be amazing. I did a podcast with the lady, Ashley James. The longest podcast I've ever done. It was 2 separate 2-hour podcasts.
Oh my.
Yes, it was a lot. Great. I feel like it was still good content. We didn't drain the content, but the second one, I had gotten her some products And the first 30 minutes of the 2-hour podcast was her thanking me for the impact that it had on her husband's severe and frequent severe and frequent headaches. Basically, he had tried everything, all the medications, all of the kind of whatever standard of care processes. Nothing was helping. It was the situation of, I wonder if today is going to be a good day or a bad day, right? And he had nothing to help manage. And she was like, this mitigates it. So they're less frequent. And when he feels them coming on, it actually can have some positive impact. I'm sure we're going to do some amazing stuff with that particular study.
Well, that's great because I am someone who has suffered from many years of migraines, and knock on wood, it's been significantly better in the last year or two. But they are like, headaches can be debilitating for people.
Yeah.
It's hard
No,
to understand if you don't suffer from them.
I am the geeky guy that you see in front of you. I have a spreadsheet back to 2014 tracking my 4 to 5 migraines per year. And I was tracking them to try and figure out,
Yep.
what the hell's causing them, because they just suck. I'll continue this story. So in 2018, I started taking this on a regular basis. I didn't get a single migraine for 18 months. So I should have
Wow.
been at 6 or 7 migraines.
Mhm.
Didn't get them for 18 months. And then I actually, for that sleep study I mentioned, on and off the product, I went off the product for the sleep study and got my first migraine in 18 months. And I'm always transparent. I do get about 1 or 2 migraines per year now. Here's what they look like, though. So I don't know how yours are. I get a little aura. I kind of know it's coming on. I get a sliver of my vision that is like a kaleidoscope that migrates to the center of my vision, and then will go away about 15, 20 minutes. I can work through it, right?
Oh,
I don't know
wow.
if you've ever tried to read through a kaleidoscope, so don't do that. Like, that's not that's not very fun. But I can
No.
do a podcast, or I can have meetings or whatever, and then it's gone. And it used to be the case that just like, bumping my head for 4 days would be, you could feel the ache, right? Like, certainly survivable, but you could feel it for 4 days. That just doesn't happen anymore.
That's amazing. That's awesome to see how that can unfold. Yeah, not to go in a migraine tunnel, but when they would come in, it was like, oh my God, the days of headaches, like, give me a headache any day. This is not, you can't function during that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's interesting as we're kind of bringing all this conversation together. I think of some people, again, back to the beginning, where they're like, okay, well, we're getting older. It's just the way it is. And then some of us are like, no, I want to feel as good as I can for as long as I can. And so that I can do the things that I want to do, right? I don't just
Yeah.
see myself sitting on a couch for hours on end. I have a husband he is a Olympic lifting athlete. He's gone to worlds at 56. And okay, so we don't live normally compared to some people anyways. And people laugh and they're like, you're okay with him training for 3 hours a day? And I'm like, I would take that any day over just sitting on a couch. Sorry to anyone who's listening to it, but it's just, I like that approach. That's
awesome.
it is. It's very
Yeah.
cool, right? It's very cool that's we want to be as long as we can to be healthy and feel good. So now, if we talk about this, how do people try the product? Where do they go? How do they learn more about you?
So, by the way, I did interview a guy, Jerzy Gregorek, who is an Olympic. He's from Russia originally, and he is an Olympic. I think he is a world record holder in an elevated class, so maybe over 50 or something. So, I'll send you a link to that interview
Please
because you
do.
might enjoy that.
Please do.
So I made a link for your audience, right?
Please.
It's called MyVitalC.com, C as in carbon, MyVitalC.com/OYCOYL, right? So that's own your choices, own your life, OYCOYL. And when they land there, I want to provide a little bit of direction. So I did do a longevity summit. I interviewed 57 experts in longevity, and I asked all of them for shortcuts to longevity. So we call those biohacks. So there's a free 18 biohacks PDF that you can get. Just need your name and your email. That's right at the top. As you go a little bit further down, there is a coupon code. They have to go there to get it. It's worth $15 off on the product on this page. We have specials on this page that do not exist on the regular website. So you want to go there anyway. And in fact, we have discounts as deep as 40%. And I'll tell you where to find that. As you go past the coupon code and past the 18 biohacking tips, you'll see the first product, which is the olive oil product. And we offer a package of 2, 3, or 6. The biggest discount is with the 6, of course, the 40% discount. The thought process behind the 6 is, I mentioned we think of the experience on our product to be 3 months. Maybe you buy 6 and have 3 months for yourself, 3 months for somebody else that might need them. Or you could be like me, I would be selfish and I would keep all 6. But that's where the best discount. There is an option for subscription. You will save additional money if you go on subscription, even if you want to try it. So of course, on subscription, it's delivered every 2 months, every 3 months, or every 6 months. Even if you just want one package, take advantage of that discount. You can cancel at any time. Our customer service team has 1,000 5-star reviews on Google. They're not trained to talk you out of canceling your subscription. They're trained to help you. Just turns out most people do stay on subscription, as I think I mentioned. If you scroll farther down, this might be the better set to get. It is the Inside Out, right? So it's the 4-ounce olive oil in our Skin Reduo. I want to share one last thing about the Skin Reduo set. So the team from the Boulder Longevity Institute, so you can imagine what they do, longevity science. They came to our booth at A4M. That stands for the American Academy of Anti-Aging. It was in Las Vegas, and they came up. This is a little hyperbole, but they said, hey, that opportunity to live longer, not interested. That opportunity to maybe live healthier, not interested. I'm actually here at your booth for your Skin Reduo set. So you can get the Skin Reduo set with the olive oil. I highly recommend doing that. And again, it's got the 236, the 40% discount on the 6. And then finally, something I'm super proud of. So I did write the book, Live Longer and Better. It is available on Amazon for $19.99. You can find it at this link. Same thing, $19.99 for $95, I think. For $10 extra, I will autograph the book for you. 100% of that $10 fee goes to Operation Underground Railroad. So you may remember an amazing movie, The Sound of Freedom, about a horrible topic, child exploitation. Operation Underground Railroad is doing a great job of wiping that off of our planet. It should have never been here. 100% of that signature fee goes to Operation Underground Railroad.
Oh, thank you for sharing that. I actually interviewed Paul Hutchison twice on the show, and big part of the investment to bring that movie to life. And I love that you said that.
Very cool. Yeah, I was very fortunate. I got to meet the founder of Operation Underground Road. I didn't meet him. I saw him speak at an event. I think it was like on a Tuesday he was speaking, and the movie launched that Saturday. Right. So it's just, it's kind of cool. You end up with a good connection, and like, whatever, it shouldn't be on our planet. So let's try and get rid of it.
Yeah, I love that but see, there's a purpose driven, again, we're back to this. Like, this is a beautiful thing, because then there's ways that we can all be able to help with things that should not be happening. And right. So thank you for that. I will make sure all of your links, and this link is in there. You have just done such an incredible job of sharing what a topic I was a little overwhelmed with when I first started. I was like, but I'm so curious and I want to be able to have this conversation, because I know that this is the content that people are looking for, searching for, like Google searching for, and then also taking advice from people that it's like, that's actually really scary. It's really scary. Right? Sometimes it's an image that sells it when it's actually not. There's no science behind it. So yeah, I just loved it. Thank you so much.
Marsha, thank you so much for having me. This is absolutely fantastic.
No, I've loved having you. And I do have one question. I ask everyone this question at the end. I know.
It's a zinger. Here we go.
Yeah, a zinger. You completely taught us science for an hour. So here's the question. What lesson in life are you most grateful for?
What lesson in life am I most grateful for? Well, I'm going to start and give my subconscious some time to work on it, on something that I like to share with other people all the time, which is, remember, you deserve the best of everything. So that's something that I would teach. What am I most grateful for? I have to, the first thing that comes to mind is work ethic and working hard. So my dad was in the Air Force. We moved every 2 years. He got to the level of colonel. The Air Force did him wrong and didn't get him to general. And so that's when he actually retired. But he was an incredibly hard worker, a great communicator. And so I think that hard work, because I've had people say, like, why do you want to do this thing? And it's like, part of it is like, I like good work. And this seems like a worthy cause. And I also like the financial rewards that come with
Mhm.
good hard work, right? And so I think just the ability to do hard work is, and the desire to do hard work is the thing that I'm most grateful for.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you so much, Chris. I loved this conversation. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Own Your Choices, Own Your Life. I invite you to tag me on social media with your takeaways or share it with a friend. If you feel called, please leave a 5-star review and I would be forever grateful. Until next time, remember, when you own your choices, you own your life.